Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome to an election day fantasy forecast. I hope you guys are all as pumped as I am. I apologize. Some of you guys, I know it's less frequent at the moment because I've been pretty clear in my videos. I will not post a line every single day. I love you guys. I love my fans, but I can't hand you guys shit if it can possibly be shit. And if you guys understand fantasy at all, you understand what I'm talking about. I will go through yesterday's lineup and the day before's when I didn't post videos just to show you guys. Because I did play a couple games, but not anything like I normally do. More of a tournament style, which is like lottery ticket. I don't care if I lose it. And what I'm showing you here is the lineup for the last video that I did. I gave you guys Westbrook and Dunn, Alphabet and Saturansky, who was basically a starter that day. McDermott, Anderson didn't pay. Millsap, Dieng, and Drummond. See, the thing is, Drummond pulling 50 for his weight. Millsap is solid 50. Alphabet close to 50, and Westbrook close to 50. As long as the rest of your lineup does somewhat decent, you're going to come up somewhat close to 300. And on a shorter slate, 274 was enough to do it. Now let me show you guys what I did on my tournament lineup. I recommended these choices across the board, guys. And I'm sure you guys can see this. This is a very minor variation of the same line. Westbrook and Dunn, Alphabet and Saturansky, exact same. McDermott, all the values I told you guys, except I just swapped out the small forward and I took Miles there, thinking there's a chance he could do okay. But really, I wanted to get Morris. The fact that Miles paid out on top was just gravy. So instead of those crappy Anderson, I've got Miles and Morris, which just powered the lineup ahead. This is how you do a tournament lineup, guys, and you run them in the quintuples as well, because they pay off so well. I mean, if you're going to do a tournament lineup and a cash lineup, put your money in the cash, and then for your tournament, do quintuples and do tournaments. And, take a chance on it if you can afford it. I took a chance, I paid off well. Okay, let's move on to the next day. That was Sunday football. I didn't do well, and honestly, guys, I won't give you guys a line if I think it's going to be crappy. Look, I landed 130th spot out of 235. My football is more hit or miss. Because my models don't work for it, I don't do a lot of videos on that. If I saw a model that, and everything, it was coming up gravy, I'd be all over it for you guys. But I wasn't, and then here, check out on the 6th. All I did is one lineup, and it was more of a tournament lineup. 2 quintuples, a shot, a dribbler. The double up was just to prove the point. Sometimes your tournament lineups can still pay. This one paid off in cash. If I'd given it to you guys, I know I'd be 8-3. We're still going to say I have a 7-3 record at this point. Thomas, Lowry, DeRozan, Booker. Booker putting up 50 has been amazing. Warren, Brown, Parker, Caspi with only 1.2 points, and it's still paid pretty in the double ups. And Cousins at 53. Cousins is finally starting to look better. Jaylen Brown is okay, but he didn't only 14.5 on his 37 salary. Who gives a crap? Anyways, it only paid double ups. It didn't hit my tournaments. I knew I could possibly lose, though I didn't care. That's why I didn't give you guys a line. Also, I wanted a day off, and I didn't. Yesterday was more different. Yesterday came down to a choice of. See, I did 2 different lineups that didn't factor in the fact that Vucevic might be injured. And then I did one lineup that did, so I took Biyombo in it. And the lineup that I took Biyombo in was just miserable. Only 14 points at the bottom there with his rebounds. Sark was needed to balance it out. I mean, I had a couple value guys in there and stuff that did okay, but when you throw in Westbrook, it was just destructive. I mean, you can't pay $10,000 for a guy that only gets 30 points. And it was just a disgusting, he didn't score what he needed. 14 points. We expect Westbrook to put up 30, guys, and we all know it. So, that was disgusting. On the other 2 lineups, I took value in both positions, Shelvin, Mack, and Galloway, and the rest of the lineup was saved because I did Harden and Davis as my studs. And the last floater spot was Griffin, along with Gobert in there. Instead of Griffin, this is Draymond Green, which is the best one of all. And this is how you play tournaments, guys. You do variations on lineups, and you keep trying to hit towards the top. This is why I tell you guys, the pros are going to win when they put in 100 different lineups. They think of all these different permutations. This is why you want to play single entries if you don't have the money to play, a $1 tournament 100 different times. If you don't have that money and you don't have the skill to, put together that many different quality lineups, forget about it. Don't bother. Play single entries. And this is why I give you guys cash game lineups. And if I have a tournament lineup on a day, it's likely I'm not going to post anything, a video or anything. If any, I might give some Twitter advice to people, if you send me messages on Twitter and ask me what you think of something, I'm happy to respond to that stuff. But otherwise, guys, I don't have much for you, Like, if I'm not going to post a line that day, it's because the injury situation is probably depending on something, or the slate is short, and there's just not a reliable cash line. If I had given out this lineup, everyone would be pissed at 2:30. Everyone would be just crying. Like, no, horrible. But yet, if I'd given out either one of these two, which didn't rely on the Vucevic news at all and just assumed that he played, it was a cash game winner. Today, we don't have as much going on with that. Today, it's a little bit different. So, let's go on to our upcoming lineups, and here's our cash game lineup for today. I have Lillard and Barea in the point guard spots. Now, I'm taking Lillard today because Lillard's shown us the upside that he needs in a cash game. He can get 50, 55 fantasy points. He might even be able to pull a 60 one day, I wouldn't surprise me for the season. The games he's likely to do that on are going to be a guy, a team like Phoenix, a team like the Lakers, so in this fast-paced game where they're probably going to run a lot faster and the score is going to be high, Vegas over-unders, bear it out, everything else like that, take the star, take the most possession of minutes, and just run with it. You have to pick a couple guys to be your studs, and you have to pick the rest to be value. No matter how you run a lineup in the end. So, our studs today in our cash lineup are going to be Anthony Davis and Damian Lillard. Take Lillard, and don't even forget about it. Against a bad opponent like this, he should have no problem scoring his floor, and will probably has a decent chance to hit his ceiling. Same with JJ Barea today. The guy has been putting up around an average of 28, 29 fantasy points. You can see it's interspersed around like a 33-point performance here, and I don't see a lot of upside. I don't see JJ Barea giving us 40, 45 points. It's not what I'm looking for, guys. I'm looking for someone that's going to give us 30, 35, solid today. And that's likely in the point guard position against the Lakers with his skill. Dallas is only 1-5. They're really hungry for a win, and it's going to happen at some point. Dallas isn't a team that's going to end with like 12 or 15 teams. Cuban spent a little too much on his guys, and honestly, they do have enough skill where, they can at least land middle of the pack. I don't know exactly whether it's 10 games under or 10 games over 500, and they're looking more towards under at the moment. But irrespective, they're going to have some wins. So expect some scores and some points to come out of their point guards. Alright. Your other choices in the position today. Let's review them real fast. You can always check out Eric Bledsoe if you think that Phoenix can hang with Portland, and they might as well, they have beat them, I believe. If you think Bledsoe's going to have a rocking game again, go for it. I tend to go with the long-term trends, and they're on Portland home court at this point, so that changes things a bit. Kyrie Irving is always in play nowadays at the 7,000 levels. If he was 8 or more, I'd be like, you can pass him, but the guy can always put up 40, so you can look at him. It's just Atlanta isn't the best opponent to be running that against. They're just middle of the road in terms of pace, and defense isn't bad. I wouldn't say it's wonderful, but it's not bad. So, in middle of the road on everything there, Irving could probably just give you a middle of the road 32 points. Conley's GTD, I just pass that stuff usually, unless you know. And you might not get an answer, by the lock. Collison is in today. If you guys like him against New Orleans, which is a bad opponent, definitely in play, especially considering it's his first game back, really. But with his first game back, I'd say it's more of a tournament play. It's not for cash, and so, I'd be looking on as a cash game player. Rubio is still out, which leaves Chris Dunn in play. He's moved up in price a bit to 48, though. Mutier's in play today. We have Berea. Frazier is always in play at these prices. And still look at the average, guys. It's close to 6 times. I don't know what people are thinking. And you have Dunn still sitting there. Although we would expect his averages to be much higher, at this point, after 6 games, or, 5 games with Rubio out, and he's just not pulling it off. So at this point, guys, you can kind of start passing on Dunn as long as he's close to the 5,000 level. He gets back down to the, the mid-4s and lower, I'd be looking at him again. But today I'd be passing. Same with Lawson. Lawson lost a lot of value because Collison is out, or back in, and so I'd be avoiding. Don't be taking him today. Just be passing on those situations. Galloway's still in play. They haven't readjusted him yet, so you can bounce on him until he's at plus 4,000 levels if you need a cheap option. Booker for shot guard. And I've already explained the game flow, the speed, and everything else. Booker is a lock for 40 today, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think he's a 6 times value at 6,700. Let's see. With Will Barton out, you guys are going to be looking at a couple of the Denver players as well. Don't be forgetting them today. You can look at Wesley Matthews as well, against the Lakers, but he's been disappointing in terms of the shot volume that he's put up. So I would stay away from that. Let's see here. I have Levine against the Nets, which I think is a optimal matchup. You can look at Etwan Moore today as well for a cheaper option against Sacramento. I would be passing on Hield. He hasn't shown enough even with the newest absence. Tim Hardaway could be in play today. You can check him out with Kyle Korver out, and he might pick up the bulk of the extra minutes. Korver normally plays about 30 minutes in a game, so Hardaway is a cheap option. The problem is I don't see Hardaway doing a lot with those minutes anyways, so I'm tending to stick away. Alright, moving on to the small forward position. I'll review the whole lineup later. I have TJ Warren and Harrison Barnes today. We're continuing the theme of, basically take a guy from the Phoenix or Portland team and go against our beaten up Lakers, or again go against the Nets, or go against New Orleans or Sacramento. And fortunately, they play each other today. I look a lot for bad defenses. I want high scoring because it always leads to a better fantasy score. When you guys take a guy from a lower price team, it's more of a tournament play because honestly, Vegas is pretty correct on how these games land. Other positions, guys in the small forward you can take, LBJ's always in play. Although Cleveland's always a risk to put into a blowout. Rudy Gay could have an awesome day, and he's going to be forgotten today. A lot of people aren't going to be looking at him. They're going to be looking in this position to either go up all the way to LeBron or to spend down a little bit. They'll go to TJ Warren. They'll go to Harrison Barnes against the Lakers. They'll look at Wiggins against the Nets, and he's definitely in play as well today, guys. They're looking to see if Wilson Chandler is going to be out for Denver, because that puts Gallinari even more in play. He'll probably pick up a few extra. Most Denver players will pick up just a couple extra minutes if they're in the primary starting lines or the 6th man. Bogdanovic has been paying more than his value lately. I'd be looking at that carefully. Solomon Hill hasn't been repriced yet. You can look at him as well. That's about it. I'd stop there at the small forward position. In the power forward today. For a cash game, you got to have Davis, guys. If he puts up 80 points, 70 points, you lose your cash game, and you're going to bank on the ownership that he's going to be 55-60% or plus owned today, especially against Sacramento. So just take Davis for your cash games, and just move on and forget about it. He's easy enough to take, and you guys know that he's got a decent floor against a bad opponent. So be happy and move on. All you have to worry about is if he gets injured. Going down, if you can't afford Davis, and I have JaMychal Green really cheap, but if you have some extra money or you can't afford Davis, I would be look at Randall in a contrarian play, even though he's for the Lakers against Dallas, because he just might put up a few extra points today. Just tends to get more of his fantasy scoring, half or more on the points itself. So if he just happens to get a hot touch, he could put up 30, 35. Dieng is in an excellent position to keep bouncing back and put up 30 points tonight against the Nets. Fantasy. You can look at Zebo tonight if you've got an extra grand against Denver. You can even look at Booker tonight. Although I would be straying away from that, even though they're at home. I'm not so sure on that play. I think he's just too expensive, honestly. I think Booker should be like 4,900 or something. I think he's 10% overpriced. I don't see much else here in the cheap spots, so let's move on to pass power forward into the center position, which has just been horrible this year. Cousins is an excellent play against New Orleans, but if Sacramento somehow blows them out, it's over. And we never know when he can go on 2 or 3 fouls in a row and, a span of 3 game minutes and just screw you. That's why his fantasy average is so low. He's cheap right now. He should be a $10,000 player, because if a guy can put up 65 points or 70 fantasy points, and we've seen it just last season, especially against a bad team, I mean, defensively that is, this guy should be 10,100 or more right now. So he is a bargain today. The question is, do you need an 8 to 10% bargain when you have guys like Towns available? And you have guys like Chandler available. And you have Bogut available. And the reason why I took Bogut is just because he's so goddamn cheap for his 20 fantasy points. It makes the whole lineup stick here. And this is just for cash. So, we're not trying to scorch at the top. We're trying to land at the top half, which is a far different thing to consider, guys. There's a different animal when you're trying to figure out a cash game and you're trying to figure out a tournament game. On a tournament game, you're trying to land in the top out of tens of thousands. In a cash game, you're just trying to get a score in the top half and let everyone else that runs their tournament lineups and they hedge them with cash games and everything else, land in the bottom parts and cushion our lineup so that we win. That's the point. Alright, so let's move into today's lineup one more time. For your cash games today, I recommend, and we are at a 7-3 record now, so this will take us to 8-3. I know if you count the 2 other, you could say 9-3, but I didn't give you guys a lineup. It doesn't count. So it's 7-3. We're going to go on 7-4 tomorrow or 8-3. Cash games. And that's single entry, 50-50s and double ups. Lillard and Barea at the point guard. Booker and Levine at the shot guard. Warren and Barnes at the small forward. Davis and Green at the power forward. And Bogut for your center. Okay. Thank you so much for watching Fantasy Forecast for Election Day. I hope I've explained why I've been absent for a little while and, a little bit more about how things go and how I pick these teams out. If you have any questions at all, follow me on Twitter and then send me a tweet. If you can't send me a direct message, I will follow you back and you can send me messages. I respond to all personal inquiries and conversations there. Leave comments here. I respond to the comments on YouTube once a day. Usually I try to do it before the game lock, so you guys can get an opinion if you post some lineups or something else. Please, if you don't like the lineup or anything else, comment here, say what you're thinking about, what you don't like. Let this community know, help everyone else out, and there's a reason why I give out this lineup for free. I want you all to become better fantasy players. The only way you're going to become better fantasy players is if you absorb all the information out there from places other than me. But you take it all in and you learn why we're choosing players, why we focus on minutes and, when a person is injured, why we jump on last minute value, why we look at averages, why we factor in numbers. You will learn all these skills over the course of a season. And they apply to other sports as well. If you guys know football better, but you're picking up my videos here, you're going to be really shocked, because as you learn the skills of what I'm doing to choose my NBA players, your football knowledge will enable you to get better football scores. You'll be shocked at how fast you guys come up in the standings. Okay, thank you so much again for watching. If you have not done so already, I implore you all, before the games start or after they start, go vote. It does not matter who you're going to vote for, because this country is still going to be fine 4 or 8 years from now. Whoever wins, go make your voice heard, my friends. This country, we fought and live and breathe for the right to express our feelings and our preferences. Go exercise that privilege that so many of our fine soldiers have fought and died for. Thank you so much for listening to Fantasy Forecast. I will be back as soon as I have another lineup, hopefully tomorrow. Please, if you have not yet, subscribe to this channel so that you can support it. I give this all for free. Like this video if you enjoyed the lineup, if you won some money on the last lineup, and go on out there and go win some big money.